Hi everyone, this is a shader I wrote that renders video and games as real-time moving paintings. In this video, I'll explain exactly how I made it, and then I'll apply it to some games using Reshade. Unlike the blended colors of Michelangelo or the long strokes of Edvard Munch, Vincent's signature style is unblended short fast strokes throughout the painting. So the first thing I experimented with was just drawing random circles colored based on the color at that circle's position in the original image. If we hold on to what we painted last frame, then when we mix in more circles each frame, they'll layer nicely. The major problem with this approach is that if we want a real-time effect, we need the whole canvas to basically refresh itself by drawing circles over previous circles. If we tried to fix this by just drawing more circles each frame, it would be too slow. In order to allow for more paint strokes in less time, I decided to use an approach that I haven't seen covered, at least on YouTube. That is the Procedural Voronoi algorithm. I have 2 videos explaining this technique in depth, as well as one showing an application of it to make an ASCII renderer with moving characters. To briefly explain though, we start with an instance grid of circles, but each cell will be drawing what it can of its 8 immediate neighbors, as well as itself. That way, we can move the circles around and it still looks continuous. So I set up the circle coloring inside the basic Voronoi algorithm, then I added the time uniform to its hash function so we get new circle positions over time. That will fill the whole canvas for the price of only 9 circles drawn by any pixel and is fast enough for real time. To make things seem more painted, I tried stretching the circles. As soon as I tried that though, I noticed that the strokes being vertical kind of ruins the effect. Looking at Van Gogh and painting in general, you can see that in most cases we follow the natural direction of the thing we're trying to paint. So I started with what I knew, how to find the difference of brightness between 2 pixels. More technically, this is finding the gradient or approximating the derivative. I used the grayscale version of the image and tested the brightness a bit to the left and to the right of the current pixel, and a bit below and above. This gives us the gradient around our point on the X and Y axis. If you color the image just based on these 2 components, you get this. If you look closely, you'll see that a line perpendicular to any gradient direction gives us the correct painting direction. To actually rotate the strokes the right way, I call the atan function on the new direction vector, which gives us an angle we can use in a 2D rotation matrix to rotate the strokes. Initially, there were a lot of small gradient changes, which meant the angle would flicker too much. My cheap solution was to use a lower resolution version of the video using MIP mapping. This blurring of the gradient, however you achieve it, is what allows for that nice flowy look. To understand what Van Gogh's paint strokes were like, we should understand something about him. It would be accurate to describe Van Gogh as obsessed. He produced over 900 paintings within a 7-year painting career, and 70 of those were completed in his last 70 days of life, where he completed at least 1 painting a day. He wanted to make as many paintings as possible, so every stroke was hurried. At the same time, his strokes were used to describe texture, bouncing of light, and many other ideas. So how can we approach something so human with code? Instead of a circle as the paint stroke, let's start with a rectangle. We'll use the red channel of a metal texture as the base texture of our paint stroke. We'll stretch it out, threshold it, and apply it as a mask. After that, we'll add some curves to the length and width of the stroke to make it feel more natural and alive. Now, it took a lot of tweaking of the code over a few weeks to get from here to a paint stroke I actually liked, so I'll say more on that later. Without any other levels of detail, especially in real time, it will be hard to make out any objects at all with this shader unless the strokes are really small. Ideally, we could paint big strokes where there's less detail and small strokes where there's more detail. We can call the function multiple times at different grid scales and pass the result between rounds so we paint in layers. The problem is if we just draw a full layer for each level of detail, we might as well only draw the top layer since it'll hide the others anyways. To fix this, we need to detect areas with more detail and only draw high detail paint strokes in those areas, and this check has to be done for each neighbor of the Voronoi algorithm to avoid discontinuities. So how can we decide which areas are high detail? I had the code for an edge detection algorithm laying around that takes the length of the gradient vector to make the edges. It's actually way more accurate than just using the grayscale of the gradient, so I used that with a mipmap level of 3 and thresholded to just spread the high detail areas out more. Right now we use the colors of the original image because, of course, we want to render it as accurately as possible, but that's not how Van Gogh did it. Van Gogh didn't just paint what he saw, he painted how what he saw made him feel. In his painting The Night Cafe, one which he called one of the ugliest paintings he ever made, he was trying to express his distaste for the nightlife in Paris. One way he did this was by intentionally using color combinations that were ugly. Beyond that, once he became influenced by the Impressionist painters of Paris, he generally pushed for high contrast and vibrant colors in his paintings. So my first ideas are to pass the original stroke color through this palette function that a lot of Shadertoy users are into. With a few tweaks that gives us more variety. To shift the colors of the whole scene, I wrote code to index a lookup table. These let you map your RGB colors to another set of RGB colors for color grading. They're used a lot in the film industry, and while it took me a little bit to get my head around, it was very satisfying when I got it working. To be honest, I think some of these lookup tables make things look less attractive, and I think that's the point. If you want to express a bad mood, you should be able to find a lookup table that fits that. Alright, so there's only one major thing missing. Vincent often painted with an impasto style, which meant the paint would rise up off the canvas. If you think about it, it's basically bump mapping long before bump mapping was invented. To get the right height for this, I use a low resolution sample of the same texture I was using for the paint texture. To top it off, I generated another SDF rectangle and used it to push down the height away from the edges of the stroke shape. That makes it look like a paintbrush was feverishly ripped through paint on the canvas. To get the normal from these heights, I used the same gradient function from before. Then I wrote a basic lighting model with a ray direction and light all in 3D space. So we have a 3D system that can calculate diffuse and specular lighting, which gives us this, our final, well, semi-final result. Okay, so I did all that work and the results look nothing like a Van Gogh painting. There are huge strokes in the first layer, which could be a fun variation, but they're too similar to each other. Overall, this isn't something you would look at and say, oh, it's like Van Gogh. I think part of it is I didn't spend enough time looking at reference images while coding, and I just went off the rails. I couldn't let this project rest as it was, so I ended up improving it. I improved the variety of the strokes. That was tricky because it was as if Van Gogh often tried to make the strokes the same, but he was also in a hurry. So this is my attempt at that. Then I realized it looked kind of odd to have all the strokes refresh each frame, so I hacked together some sort of motion detection algorithm. It's mostly made up, but it does look like the color only shows up where stuff moves. So I applied that as part of the conditional to determine if we draw a stroke. The only issue was it was only updating right on the frame where things had moved, which wasn't enough to redraw everything that needed to be redrawn. So I added a sort of ghosting effect which gives the main algorithm more time to redraw paint. That leads to this. I think this is most useful in scenes like a webcam, in an empty room, or a green screen effect, where you would expect a lot of stillness in the background. I also added a sort of color blending where the algorithm looks at what is already on the canvas and spreads some of that color into its new color based on the UVs. I did this along the natural direction and also the perpendicular, so it looks like paint that was left on the brush is also being added to the next stroke. One thing I didn't get to was adding the Kveldka-Munck theory, which lets us blend colors based on actual pigments. For example, in the RGB space, halfway between blue and yellow is gray. With a real paint, you would expect green. There is a whole physically based equation for doing that, but it requires a lot of setup. So that would be a good future project. Also, I would have loved to restrict the color palette more or remap it to the sort of colors Van Gogh used, but I didn't get there. Incidentally, images of things like sunflowers and almond trees in their natural environment fit this color scheme pretty well. With that done, I really wanted to know how this would work in a game. Reshade is an open source post-processing injector for games and video software. It was developed by a solo developer named Crosshair. The basic setup is run the exe, point to a game, and choose the right graphics API. If you haven't memorized the graphics APIs of all your Steam games, Reshade provides a search tool to find it. After that, the next time you start the chosen game, Reshade will be accessible. For more shaders, you can choose to install more from the provided list or add your own. I decided to port each piece of this project as an individual shader to get a feel for the system. After that, I put it all together using passes and render textures. The only major issue I ran into was the default format for Reshade textures is RGBA8, which is unsigned and normalized. That means it can only hold data in the range of 0 to 1. That means if you try to convert a shader that stores values outside of that range in textures, the data will be truncated to within the range and it will probably break your shader.
Now you're totally stuck in the retro zone. Sad face.
For most things, you'll want to use a signed float format like RGBA16F. I learned that lesson the hard way, so you don't have to. Beyond that, the A10 function is not overloaded like in Shadertoy. Instead, there are implementations of A10 and A10-2, which are not the same thing. So I decided on some games to show this effect on: Combat Master, Batman Arkham City, the demo, and Life is Strange. Combat Master is a multiplayer online first-person shooter that I was able to use Reshade on without being banned. First-person shooters are probably the worst type of game to run this effect on right now. They demand quick reaction time based on attention to details in the environment. Here, the details I need to look out for are players with red writing over their heads, the bad guys. The red writing is easy to miss with all the paint, and sometimes I confuse red paint strokes that came from lights or other things with an enemy signal. Beyond that, I rely more on sounds like bullets whizzing past, but it's usually too late by then. You can tell when you've successfully killed someone because there's this gold stuff that comes out and a cha-ching noise. Of course, if you play this game a lot already, you already know what to look for. This is just a new game for me. I tried to cherry pick most of my kills, which were few and far between. I think I got 6 kills in my best round, but I found the whole experience really fun. I really feel like this effect could be useful in the story mode of a first-person shooter, where the character ends up with some sort of psychological impairment, or otherwise just as a way to make a battle more dramatic or emotional. Batman Arkham City is another game I played for the first time. There are definitely prompts and actions you have to take that are hard or impossible with this effect on.
All units, this is Air Tiger 4.
I was still able to fly through the city just fine though, and handle the 10 guys with baseball bats and crowbars. If this game is mostly hand-to-hand combat, I think an improvement would be setting the painting layers based on depth. That way we can get more of the painterly effect while it stays playable. With this effect on, things like anti-aliasing won't make a difference, so if you're worried about using this on a graphics-heavy game, there are probably things you can turn off like I am here. The last thing I'll say is this game is fairly dark and gloomy, but I was surprised how painterly the darker tones looked.
The only way to get by in this place is to get ourselves some respect. Beer. That's how we get respect.
Whoa. That was so surreal.
Famously called film Little Pieces of Time.
I think painterly effects in general have the most potential for more artsy or story-based games. Just like 1111, Life is Strange is a story-adventure game and the main character is a photographer in art school.
How can I show this to Mr. Jefferson? I can hear the class laughing at me now.
The main character moves fairly slowly, which means less artifacts as the camera moves. It helps that there are a lot of saturated colors and not too much detail. I like the effect the lookup tables have on this game the most. This one, for example, makes it feel like you stayed way too late at school, which is, at least for me, an eerily familiar feeling. I think this game could be playable if you make the highest level of detail paint strokes small enough to read the text. A game built with this effect would just have all the text options over top, so it would be fine. The performance shown in this laptop is with an RTX 4060 GPU. This shader takes 2 to 4 milliseconds per frame on Reshade, which is great. There are still a lot of ways to improve it though, like using a single channel version of the metal texture and reducing the use of texture calls and trig functions in general. Games using DirectX 9C like Life is Strange and Batman Arkham City seem to not run the shader properly and show crazy high runtimes like 60 to 80 milliseconds on Reshade, even though they still run at 60 frames per second when they do work. Games running DirectX 11 and up seem to run as expected. My assumption is any game that fits this profile, DirectX 11 and up, which your computer can run, should run this shader without issue. A lot of my time was spent just training my eye to what looks painterly and then to what looks like a Van Gogh painting versus what didn't. So much of this project was waking up the next day, looking at the effect, not liking it, and spending a few more hours trying to fix it. It's even more complicated because a lot of the things that make it more painterly can make it less readable, especially in a real-time context. Part of the problem with emulating Van Gogh specifically was that he was being influenced by so many artists himself. He reminds me of Bruce Lee creating a style out of a bunch of elements that work for him. I'll close here by saying that studying art and graphics programming in this way has given me a new perspective on both. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on all of this as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.